Hi, this is Shu with a review of the Zion 3. As you can tell, this is trying to be very Kobe-esque. I suppose many of the Nike lines will try to, in a good sense, pay tribute to Kobe. In a bad sense, try to cash in on people's reignited flame for Kobe after his passing. So yeah, this shoe, as you can tell by the silhouette, it's very similar. It fits. It's shaped, formed to look a lot similar to the Kobe 11s or a little bit like the Kobe 360s. One thing about this shoe is it's really, really narrow. The Kobe's were kind of on the narrow side, but this feels even narrower, as narrow, if not narrower than crazy shoes like KD13, which is crazy narrow, or some of the Kyrie series where you have to go up a few sizes. For me, I had to go up a whole size for most Kyrie series, and for the KD13s, I felt comfortable when I went 1.5 size up. I'm a person who can wear a true to size shoe for most LeBrons and other a decent width shoe, but this, it feels, the shoe feels like it runs a bit short and it's a bit narrow. The drop-in midsole is pretty commendable. It's made of Formula 23, which we thought Nike was going to ditch because we were seeing a lot more Cushlon 3.0 in most Nike shoe as of late. So this is trying to keep the hopes of continuing the Formula 23 setting alive. So up to this point, I think this is the best Formula 23 usage we've seen in a Nike basketball shoe. It feels like a bit of a denser Lunarlon or a bit of a softer React foam. Oh, I don't know, kind of, yeah, pretty dense React as well. But it's not too bad once you put it on, especially because it's just Formula 23 on the heel. It provides adequate cushioning and shock absorption. And on the forefoot also, you can feel it working around your toe area as well. So it's a pretty soft and comfortable ride. And on the forefoot, there's a zoom mirror. Usually when you have zoom mirror at the bottom, like in some really rigid, in the Kobe 8 Elites, they had a very firm, they said it was Lunarlon, but it was stiff as hell. And they had a zoom mirror on the forefoot bottom load. You could not feel anything. So compared to that, this is actually zoom mirror you can feel, and the zoom mirror is pretty substantial. We've seen this shape of zoom mirror before, but I don't think I've seen anything. I think this is thicker than the ones I've seen in the past that's shaped in this in this shape. So yeah, you can feel that. And even without that, I think the Formula 23 would have been suffice to provide forefoot cushioning. So with the zoom mirror, although you can, unless the zoom mirror, you can feel it, but you don't feel it like zoom strobel. But anyway, it's good. It's providing an extra bounce to your step on the forefoot. There's this plasticky plate to try and stabilize it. I thought this might be a deal breaker, but it's actually pretty soft, as you can tell. It's pretty soft and malleable, so it's not going to hurt you in any way. So what it feels like is, on the eye test, you can see the heel is considerably, relatively thicker than the forefoot, but then the zoom mirror changes it a little bit. So with the zoom mirror, even though it is thinner than the heel, it does not feel like it has a huge offset. It actually feels like it's straightforward. But we'll see if the Formula 23 bottoms out as quickly as reacts to Lunar, but I don't think they do, judging by my experience with the Jordan 37s, which had a bulky Formula 23 on the heel. It's not the softest thing, but it actually did not collapse and gave up that quickly. And also this pattern here, I think this is a nice touch, because in a lot of the drop-in midsoles, you had some poking things to try and provide you some friction, but the poking thing, not a good feeling. Instead, they've actually had some indentations to provide the traction that you might need. But of course, it would be ideal to have some kind of a fabric coating here, because with just rubber here, when you sweat, you can feel the moisture, and nothing's wicking the moisture. So that's a bit of a sad, I suppose, downside to it. And also, if you have a suede soft kind of a clothing top layer, it actually provides an added level of security, comfort, and cushioning. So That's unfortunate, but I guess this is what they did to keep the price down. Not too sure. Again, this is very, very, as you can tell, my hands are tiny, but this is really narrow. So I would say uh, ordinary people go up a whole size up. And if you have a very narrow foot and you like a very tight fit, maybe you can go half a size up, maybe true to size. But even if you go true to size, you might feel like this is slightly tighter than most shoes you've had in the past. And if you really want to wear the shoe and you feel a bit of a discomfort around the pinky toe area or like that, you can just, cut this little bit off to provide some breathing space. But ideally, it's best to be able to appreciate the shoe the way it is, and if it doesn't fit, move on or get a much larger size. So for a size 9.5, it weighs about 388 grams. It's not too bad. I mean, for a low riding shoe, it feels a bit heavy, but it's not too bad. It doesn't feel as clunky as those crazy shoes in the past, like the LeBron 19. The tongue is well padded, and it's well padded, and there's a bulging patch inside to ensure a heel lockdown, so heel slippage is not going to be an issue. The outsole surrounds the heel like that, and there's a very hard heel cup at the heel as well, so it provides very good lockdown there. And when these rubber bits are around or surrounding the heel and it's this rigid, you would worry about having this clunkiness like what you had with Kobe 9s or the Kobe 11s, or most recently even the GT Cut 1. Even though they had like layers of cushioning, there was a very angular clunkiness in the heel. But this, it's a bit more rounded, and the Formula 23 on the heel works nicely in tandem to ensure that it's a smooth ride and not a clunky 90-degree angle vibration and impact that you feel. So that's pretty good. And the traction is actually not too bad. It's pretty simple. Herringbone and some circular patterns around, surrounding lines like the Kyrie 2s. And on the heel, there's something we've seen in a lot of Adidas shoe and brown and black shoe in the past. It's just wavy lines to provide that traction that, you're not going to be doing a lot of side-to-side movements in the heel. So decent traction, but I question its durability because it's not the deepest groove, but not too bad. And also it's pretty dust sensitive, so you have to wipe. It's not the greatest, most crazy biting traction, but it's better than the Zion 1, which was slipping all over the place. Also a little bit different depending on the type of rubber that's used on the outsole. But this one, better than Zion 1s. I think multi-directionally it provides a better traction than the Zion 2s. Zion 2s had good side-to-side traction, but sometimes you slip forward to backward movement. So it's a good balance, decent upgrade, I suppose. One thing I really need to commend about this shoe is that, can you see this outrigger? It's huge. You can feel it working. You have this extra added level of security. You won't have to worry about spraining your ankles on a very aggressive side-to-side movement. And also the outrigger doesn't end here. See this thing? This whole midsole lateral area is an outrigger, so there's a great deal of security there. So that's something I have to give props to the shoe. It doesn't have a crazy dead space on the toe box area, so it's good. But at the same time, overall the shoe is very tight and firm. One downside to this shoe, I feel like it varies depending on the shape of your foot, but this is not exactly the lowest low cut. It kind of might dig into your ankle a little bit, depending on the shape of your foot, I suppose. But this is pretty rigid. Yeah, it's not the most forgiving part. It feels almost blade-like. So yeah, and there's this plastic coating all around it, so you're not gonna be able to tame it to provide the level of mushiness that you want. So try this shoe on. If you wear a very tight, those Zams 82X kind of plasticky ankle brace, then this is not going to be a problem. But if you wear like, ankle socks and you like some freedom of movement here, then you might have to really tighten the shoe before you purchase it and see if these parts dig in. Yeah, overall, I think this is a good upgrade. It doesn't feel like a Zion though. Because maybe Nike is tired of waiting for Zion to actually come out and work without retiring or sitting on the bench mid-season, not even mid-season. So anyway, the price has went up a little bit, but I think it's fair. It's not crazy high like some of the crazy price points we've seen in undeservingly expensive shoes like the GT Hustle, which seemed like a downgrade. Or yeah, it's not too bad. But again, Zion models usually go on discount, so you know you'll be getting them at half price pretty soon. And the colorways, there's a huge array of colorways coming, and these little plasticky rubbery thing, they do a good job of providing a lot of fun gradation pattern and some of the elephant pattern kind of feel with the authentic Jordan kind of flavor. That's what I would look for. I mean, the authentic Jordan logo is, speaking of which, there's this interesting cute little Jordan, the traditional classic black and red Jordan logo here. This is I really, I don't know why, but it's a nice little interesting detail. So not too bad. But if you have a really, only if you have a really narrow foot, and if you really want to shoe, try them out. I definitely would say you have to go up a half a size, a whole size. It's really, really narrow.